Celtics take game one and look dominant doing so, right? I mean, if you sit there and say, hey, the Celtics go and take game one and Jason Tatum didn't even play particularly well, man, does that bode well for the C's? And as I told you, my expectations were for the Mavericks to win because game one is usually a game you can come in and sneak in there, get a win before the series gets going. And I like the Mavericks in the series. Does that mean that I'm selling all my Maverick stock? It does not. I try to have some balance about me, some poise about me, and understanding of it, and the knowledge that despite what I saw appeared to be a gigantic chasm between the two teams, I also know that I've seen that in other series, and it's evened out in the second game or even in the third game. Right? I mean, look no further than the Nuggets series against the Timberwolves, where in games 1 and game 2, they weren't really competitive at home, and then all of a sudden the thing goes 7. Of course, it did paint a picture for us of what ended up happening in 7, but the point is that it became a really hotly contested series. So, you sit there and you're like, okay, well, maybe this is a bad matchup, or maybe it's just Kristaps Porzingis plays so well in the first half without any sort of expectations. We don't know. I will tell you that, and anybody who's played basketball, I think, knows this, that what happens in basketball oftentimes if you haven't played, now this is more when you haven't touched the ball, but when you haven't played, that first time back you do make all your shots, and then the second game, or the second day, you can't make any shots. Now granted, they don't play today. But the obvious points are Porzingis changes everything, not just because he gave them 20 points off the bench, but because he gives them rim protection on defense, and then when you have a big guy who can make threes, it takes away Dallas' ability to protect the rim because their center has to guard him all the way out 24, 25 feet away. Right? He's not their best player, but he can absolutely change the dynamic and approach of the Dallas Mavericks simply by making shots and by sticking in that game. Can we expect that type of performance from him for the rest of the potentially 6 games? No. But the other part the Celtics could say is, hey, Jason Tatum didn't play well. They still end up winning the game by double figures and, and doing so going away pretty handily. But again, how many times do we have to see these series to know that game one, while telling, doesn't actually always tell us the whole story? There's been a lot of criticism of ESPN's halftime coverage and how many commercials there are and how there's a lack of analysis. But it's always fascinating to me on how little people actually investigate and understand the difference in cable and network TV. Don't get me wrong, they should, on some level, stand up for their studio shows and not have as many breaks. But the breaks are cut up so much because that's how they make money. It's different than cable. Right? With TNT has a longer halftime show because they can. They're also making money on their subs, whereas with ABC, you're not making money on your subs. You can make money on viewership, and you can make money on selling ads. And the more ads you sell, the more money you make. And the only place to place ads are interspersed within your live programming. That's what they're doing. Then I saw that Doris Burke, of course, who made history as the first woman to call a championship men's professional sport. Then she said she's not a lifer. That one is a weird one. Wait, you waited your whole career to finally get to the NBA Finals, and the first comment that you have is, yeah, I don't want to do this forever. Like, really? Really? And then we're going to cover this. We'll cover some of it in the podcast. We get the Belmont this weekend. How many people watch the Preakness? And I know who didn't win the Preakness only because there's no talk of a Triple Crown winner, so it obviously wasn't whoever won the Kentucky Derby. And the Belmont is not even in Belmont, New York. It's in Saratoga in upstate. Didn't know that, right? All these are new things. Speaking of the Belmont, Thoroughbred Racing has a new independent regulator, HISA, that is implementing comprehensive reforms. And the sport is combining hands-on care with cutting-edge technology to keep its athletes safe. To learn more, visit safetyrunsfirst.com. That's safetyrunsfirst.com. It's interesting that the breaking story yesterday, and we may have to break in with it today. We'll find out what happens with Danny Hurley. But it's really interesting how many people are like, wow, Danny Hurley, college coaches, is that work? And then you're watching the Boston Celtics and you're like, hey, who runs the Celtics? Oh, right, that's Brad Stevens. And Brad Stevens, well, he hasn't taken them to the NBA Finals. They were in conference finals. And wildly respected as one of the elite, if not the elite coach in all the NBA during his time. And he kicks himself upstairs. Now he's the president of basketball operations. I don't know. To me, that one is a great sign if you're the Lakers, that maybe you're on the right path. If you're copying the Celtics in your own sort of unique way. Celtics brought in Brad Stevens to be their head coach. Then eventually he kicked him upstairs. The Lakers are trying to bring in Danny Hurley as coach. And what does that mean long term? I can tell you that it has worked as far as Brad Stevens is concerned. And it did. I thought it worked well even when he was the head coach. So we act like this is a path that people haven't traveled down. And then you watch the Celtics and you're like, wait a second. I mean, Joe Mazzulla is the youngest coach in the NBA. And I think he's doing a fantastic job. But if you think that Joe Mazzulla knows more about coaching basketball than Danny Hurley does, and it's not just because Danny Hurley has won 2 national championships, but he's done it at multiple levels, high school, low major, mid-major level, and all the way up to super high major, and now coaching at the highest level, winning 2 straight NCAA championships. It doesn't mean he'll immediately be successful, but you do look around and you're like, hey, wait, the Celtics were able to do this, and that guy runs their whole operation, and the Celtics have not only have no fall-off in terms of talent-wise, it keeps getting better on a yearly basis. So Kyrie did not have a particularly good night last night. Matter of fact, I mentioned that 8-0 run was turnover, missed shot, bad possession, mostly by Kyrie, and Jaylen Brown, a couple others helped that 8-0 run, and that kind of put the stamp on the game. It was an 8-point game, became a 16-point game, and that was that. And, he answered all the questions well. He seems to have some balance about him. I think the big question I have, and I don't know if you guys have ever been in a situation like this. When I look back at my basketball career, frankly, when I look back at different runs I've had at different media companies, is there is a way in which you need to kind of fit in. You need to not change who you are, but use whatever parts of your personality fit with that school, that team, that place of work. Not everything works everywhere. How do you do that and still be yourself? How do you do that and still, especially in basketball, maintain your edge? Not everybody plays well this way, but many times guys that are motivated and frustrated or even mad or angry or whatever, they use all of that as fuel along with a distinct hatred or strong dislike of kind of I don't know, like a narrative against them. They just walk with a chip on your shoulder. And so that chip, you got to be able to get along with everybody. You got to find kind of a peaceful balance in existence, but you can't do it so much so that you lose your edge. That's the proper level. You want to play at that edge with an edge, but not be edgy. And I do just wonder with Kyrie, it's like he wanted so much to make it like any other game, and I've played in hostile environments, and I've been here, and I know it, and understand it, so I'm just going to play. But sometimes playing with that anger as energy ends up being the better play. Byers, does that make sense at all? Like, just the idea of, like, I can only tell you for me, it's like I'm a super emotional guy. When I use that as fuel for anything I do, but especially when I played basketball. And I felt like as I matured, so many people were like, hey, keep your emotions in check, be balanced, don't get too high, don't get too low. But some of those peaks are good for energy, and you need it. And you have to know yourself and what you're wired to do. Some people can't play with that stress and that anxiety. Some people, they play better when they have stress and anxiety.
Kyrie was booed every time he touched the ball last night, and I don't think that that would get to him. And it's not just a Kyrie thing. The Mavericks just did not seem locked in, and I know we thought maybe the Celtics would have some rust with it, but man, that Game 1 crowd, everybody picking Dallas. The road that Dallas just went through, even though they beat the Timberwolves in 5 games, The last one was the easy one. The other ones were grinds, and even their series against Oklahoma City was difficult. It felt like that all caught up with Dallas. And maybe, who knows, maybe they even just just didn't think much of Boston because of the playoff run and thought that they were the team to beat. But man, any sort of energy that the Boston Celtics fans were trying to throw, negative energy at the Dallas Mavericks, yeah, they did not turn that into fuel, if you will.
No, they really didn't. They just kind of let it happen to them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, Porzingis had one. Brown, I think, had one or two. Tatum had one. Posterizing dunks. There were just absolute celebrations, one after the other. Sam Hauser's pickpocketing Luka, and then 2 minutes later, rains a three from the corner. And you're like, all right, maybe at that point, you're just like, all right, it's not our night. Yeah. Even though they made a little bit of a run at the start of the second half, it's still, you're just kind of like, all right, let's put this one away. But yeah, there was nothing. It's kind of like, you know what it reminds me of? Actually, this is the best example because Dallas, I think, had an early lead. What was it, 15-14, something like that. It's in college football when you have that big road game and you go on the road, and if you can just kind of navigate that first quarter, if you will, and not let it get away from you, you should be all right. Maybe there's a lot of energy and you go out and you score and you think that you've set the tone, but you still got to get through that first quarter. That's what I felt like last night. Dallas maybe had energy to do the first 6 minutes of the first quarter, but then by the end of it, it was all over. And I think you see that in college football at times. First possession, go down and score. This is our game. And then you don't do anything after that.
Yeah, I just felt like there wasn't the proper level of energy, and looked a little flat. And the energy plays came from Boston, and instead of taking the air out of the building, they just inflated the building.
Yeah, on both ends, by the way, energy plays.
Yeah.
It wasn't like just they were. I mean, because they were making threes, but it's also blocked by Porzingis. That's the other thing I think too is we've been talking about Porzingis. Celtics have been waiting for Porzingis, so anything that he did well probably had an effect of 2 to 3 times of what it actually provided. And then when he has 11 points in the first quarter and, a couple of blocks and this and that, it just multiplied for how good things were going to be for Boston. So I think that could have played a role as well.